Hey, what's going on, Crusty Virgin Gang? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. We gotta have this talk. I know we're all grown adults here for the most part. I think most people here that watch the Pokemon content are. Weirdly enough, right? Pokemon marketed for kids, but mostly inhabited by adults. It's one of those things, one of those weird happenings where Call of Duty meant for adults, but mostly played by kids. It's one of those, yeah. Well, floppity flop things, whatever. We have to have this discussion. I didn't really think we were going to have to, but there's enough people that are in this space that just don't really seem to understand video topics, discussions that we have here in the Pokemon space, the differences between creators, and ultimately just the difference of opinions that exist here. So, creators, right? Every video that everybody makes in the Pokemon space, regardless of how it is, unless it's just a super generic, vanilla, no fucks video, right? It's going to have some layer of an opinion on it, especially people talking about money, values, personal collection goals, what they think you should do with stuff, what their personal things for like setting up collections is, how they think you should make content. Just all that stuff has different layers of opinions in it and how people generally feel about stuff. There's no different from any other layer of like any kind of YouTube creator space or anything that happens, right? It's everywhere. Anywhere where people have some outlet or some like realm of like creativity or freedom here, there's always going to be different opinions laid into all that stuff, right? How deep those opinions go is going to be extremely like, it's creator based. Some people want to go super hard in politics, some people want to go super hard in money, some people want to go super hard in like comedy, some people want to go super hard in information, and then some people just want to just make videos just for fucking fun. It's all over the place, and that stuff exists. Now, everyone in this space, right? Every single person in this space, at some point, if you start making videos, this is one of the things I get asked a little bit. It's not all the time, but every once in a while, people ask me tips about content creation, like I fucking know anything. I don't know, man. I just talk about stuff. I really don't talk too much outside of here, and I just make videos and yap about stuff I want to. I used to do all kinds of videos talking about specific instances and people, but lately I've just been doing the old yap sessions, talking about things that happen in the hobby specifically, especially things regarding money and value, because I do know a good bit about it because I've looked into a lot of it before, especially looking at specific creators. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it is something that actually affects our hobby a good little bit. The amount of hype, the amount of things that are talked about, the amount of cards that move, the amount of fucking shit gets graded, all that stuff has a play on what happens in the space. And ultimately, if you buy any type of Pokemon cards or product, you're going to run into something that happens like this, whether it's positive or negative, all the way across the board. It's just how it is. Ultimately, the thing that people like hearing about right now is just actually things that are happening with cards. I think people are starting to care a little bit less about individual like dramas or stuff like that. And honestly, I really was kind of getting a little tired of it too. I don't really want to talk specifically about stuff. I still will if I have to. I'll still like bust out the whole hat and start ripping some assholes apart if I absolutely need to. But ultimately, talking about cards it's been scratching a little itch that I've had lately, something a little bit more in the Pokemon space. I'm really glad people like what I have to say about it. But ultimately, I'm not immune from people having issues with my content and what people say. And if you're making content, you're going to run into that same thing. You can make the most positive, generic content. You could literally just be sitting there opening Pokemon card packs, and ultimately somebody is going to have a problem with you. It's just the way it is. It's the way the internet works. And if you cannot handle any of that, if you can't handle people saying stuff to you, even if you're doing absolutely nothing wrong, unfortunately, the YouTube space or the content creation space isn't for you without you limiting or removing comments. Unfortunately, the internet is kind of a tough place. YouTube is a tougher place, in my opinion, than some other places. There's places that are way tougher than YouTube, but YouTube's a relatively tough place with the comments and how people come in. Doesn't bother me at all. I actually like the engagement. I like seeing what people have to say. I like seeing the reasonings and why people have to say, even if I don't agree with it or I like talk back to it or something like that, because I do like replying back to a lot of my comments. It's one of those things where it doesn't really bother me, and I'm very happy people are able to say how they feel about stuff in my comments. It's one of the great things about having freedoms here and having the freedom of speech. It's not like that everywhere. It's one of those things I don't take for granted. Having the ability to say what you want and ultimately have a YouTube page that you can work on your own time, upload as much or as little as you want, and essentially have your own show, have your own little place where people can tune. It's awesome. It's one of the great things about that. And honestly, having just like a few thousand people tune into like this, it's fucking insane to me. Like I'll log in, I'll check like how a video's doing, and sometimes I'm just shocked by how many people are actively watching just the bullshit I have to say, talking about Pokemon cards, talking about new shit I got. Yeah, I got that new Pikachu Squashmallow right there, the one with the cool hat on it. That's a nice one right there. And that sucker, I was expecting it to be more expensive. It was not. The Black Friday deals actually start kind of early. I don't think that was on sale, but still, it's all kinds of stuff going on right now. People want to hear what I have to say. And ultimately, talking about stuff is going to get you in some hot water. Some people, I can make any kind of content in the world, and somebody is just not going to like me because of the things I've said, the things that I have had previous opinions about, and ultimately just the stances I've taken. That's just how it is. It doesn't matter. The content's going to roll. It's just skin off my back. I don't care about any of that stuff. Some people do. But ultimately, like the takes people have in this place, it's going to have you just have people that don't agree with it. And that's okay. That's fine that people don't agree with you. That's one of the cool things about this place. But you are allowed to make content you want to make. You are allowed to have opinions that you want to have. You are allowed to ultimately say and do and push out whatever kind of content you want. And it's one of those things that like people can disagree with you. People are going to have things that they want to say and contrary to it. But that's not really a bad thing. I mean, the worst thing that can ever happen to you making content, the absolute worst fucking thing that could ever be when it comes to making content is people just not caring that you uploaded, whether if they feel good or bad about you, whether it's like a neutral take. Like the neutral takes is the worst shit that could happen to you. Either people feel really good or people disagree with it or fucking anything. Like it's one of those things where no take is the absolute worst thing. Apathy and just being like, meh, person up, that's the worst thing that could actually happen to your page or your channel or anything like that. If you're getting a response out of people, regardless of how it is, that means people felt something about your content, whether it is good or bad. And there are some lines where you don't want to do shit that's too bad. Like a couple of things, right? You probably shouldn't steal stuff. You probably shouldn't incite violence. You probably shouldn't do a bunch of, hateful, racist, a bunch of other shit like that where you're just not blatantly fucking hateful to a person for some bullshit they can't change. Criticism about things in the Pokemon space, about how people spend their money, and about things that you personally feel about the space is not that same level. And just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that you're saying you can't fucking do something. And I feel like a lot of people get that confused a lot lately. Like a lot of people think just because you're vocal about things that you talk about, that means just by default that like you think that they can't have those opinions. Far from it. I love people having opinions. It's one of the great things about my content. People can have their opinions. I can have my opinions back. I don't even disagree with half of the opinions that come out of this place. Hell, some of the investor bros, some of them have some alright takes. Some of them say some okay things. I don't fucking agree with everything, but I'm never going to say people shouldn't have an opinion here. Fucking, it's your page. It's your channel. It's your stuff. You publicly uploaded, so people are free to feel how they want about it. But absolutely, people should be able to talk how they want about cards. People should have the right to talk about value. People should have the right to talk about what they do with their fucking card collection, what they prefer. Whether people want to talk about grading cards or, altering or cleaning cards or any of the other stuff that I may not 100% agree with. I don't really have a problem with people grading cards that much. It's not personally for me, like all the fucking time. I do have some graded cards, but I'm not going out of my way to do that. It's usually I pick them up from like friends or something like that. I think all those things should happen. I think people should be able to have the right to decide whether they want to do something or whether they don't want to do something. And you saying that you have a different opinion about that, if other people are allowed to have the takes that they have and other people are allowed to have the opinions that they have, you are 120% allowed to have the opinion that you want as well, regarding that. You're allowed to challenge it. You're allowed to criticize. Obviously, there's fucking lines you don't cross. Obviously, you don't fucking talk about things that people themselves cannot change. Obviously, you don't do specific things that are obviously just fucking absolutely hateful. And people, every common sense person knows exactly what that is. Like swearing at somebody doing all that shit, that's not the fucking same thing, okay? Especially since everybody here is a grown adult. They spend grown adult money and they've made grown adult choices all the time here about what to do with that stuff. People with their big investment money, they can handle some big investment, big adult criticism too, in that vein as well. But I mean, people should be allowed to have their opinions. People should be allowed to talk, and that goes equally as well for anybody with differing opinions about this stuff. I get a lot of criticism that I have opinions that are just very contrary to just be contrary, to just oppose the popular thing, which is crazy because I do like some popular things a good little bit. I do like some things that are actually popular. It's just when it comes to certain aspects of Pokemon, I'm not going to fucking lie. I'm not going to pretend that I like something. I'm not going to say that something is the best thing ever when I truly do not believe that. I truly don't think that Kanto is the best generation. I truly do not think that like every fucking generation needs a 151 print of something. I think a 251 could probably come out. I think fucking the Hoenn shit could come out. 381 or whatever the fuck it is. Like whatever, like we can have other stuff. And that's how I think about it. If Pokemon ultimately doesn't want to do that, they want to just keep pumping out Kanto shit, who am I to really say anything about it other than to be like, man, it really fucking sucks. I really wish they'd show some other Pokemon some goddamn attention like they show 151. But at the end of the day, like, that's all I'm doing. I'm just going like, I'm not really saying anybody should or shouldn't do something. I'm not really saying people should or shouldn't buy something. It's just, it's what it is. You're allowed to do the things you want. You're allowed to say the things you want. But so am I. I'm allowed to do the exact same thing other people have. If other people can have platforms and fucking promote whatnot and drip and all this other bullshit, and people can fucking say, buy this, do that, sell this. If you don't buy this, you're a fucking moron. If you don't do this, you're losing out on all this stuff. Even though, like, I'm allowed to say what I want to say too. And everyone's allowed to do that. Everyone's allowed to fucking have their takes on stuff. And that's the great thing about content. Everybody has a story, everybody has a take, everybody has something cool they can add. And that really should be motivation to people who really want to start content creation. If my stupid ass can have a channel, if my fucking unoriginal, just sitting here talking to a fucking microphone in a room surrounded by things I like, and just uploading a video and getting people to watch even a little bit of it, that should be motivation to you. If I can do it, anybody can fucking do it. I truly mean that. I am basically the line, and all you gotta do is do a little bit better than me, and someone's gonna like what you have to do. I mean that. That's true. That's real. Just try something. If you're feeling making content, just take that foot in it, man. Just stick that foot. Keep working at it too. It took me a long time to get anybody to pay attention to anything I had to say. A long, long time. Ask some people that have been here a little bit. I was making videos for fucking nothing on Instagram for a long time. Even before that, I was making other videos not about Pokemon. Fucking doing video game boss rush shit. That's all I got. Appreciate it, Version Gang. See you later. Everyone can have an opinion. Everybody can. But that does mean everybody, including me, and including people who may have had opinions already before, who found the channel and kind of agree with the things I say and all that's good. Like, people are allowed to have their takes too. It goes both ways. People can have their cake. People can have their ice cream. They can fucking do it, man. They do what they want.